Hi, everybody. Sharona here. Welcome to another episode of Conversations That Matter Most. I am one of your Fabu host, co-anchors, Sharona. And with me, of course, is the lovely and totally awesome Claudette. Hi, Claudette.
Hi, Sharona. Hi, everyone. I just love how you do your introductions. You always make me smile.
Well, I don't have many powers, but I think one of them is just being a wee bit off center. So, welcome everybody. If you have been following us, welcome back. And if you're new, hi, welcome. And this is Conversations That Matter Most. And just to give a little background. Oh, I notice how I went background. Suddenly, I think I'm on a plane. Make sure you know where the exits are. Um,
There, not there.
and put on the mask. So Claudette and I met a while back, and we were having these conversations, and we just figured for that, Claudette works with stepmoms and step families, and I work with midlife women. Dancing with change, and we thought that this might be something, a useful tool for women, peoples that might want to have deeper conversations with people in their lives, be it in their personal lives or in their work lives. And so we talk about all kinds of topics that we just have conversations about. This is not scripted. This is live, not like a reality show, but live.
It's
And
a real reality show.
this is
Right?
yeah, a totally real reality show. And if you go into our channel, you'll find we've had conversations about procrastination and dealing with conflict. And so uh, go peruse after this episode and see, listen again and share. And again, this is not about if you disagree or agree or hate us or don't hate us or that's not what this is about. This is about just giving you the tools so that way some conversation starters, if you will, and that you can jump, leap into what you need to talk about. Because let's face this, today in this kind of climate where everybody's got Pokemon Go and they're going, no one's actually connecting.
No,
So
they're looking at their little screen like this and going, okay, we're connecting with one. No, that doesn't.
no. This, as my dad would say, eyeball to eyeball, eyeball to eyeball. So that's and today we're going to talk about when fear gremlins invade, and how to reform them. And this started, to be honest, when we were having our conversation on Monday, Claudette and I, and we were dealing with our own internal fear of what if. And so we wanted to expand a little bit more on that conversation and talk about, one of the things that I realize is I have a default fear. I have many fears, but I have a default fear. This fear has been with me most of my life, and it comes in very quickly, and it can just shift my whole reality fast. And so for me, what I have to do is realize I'm in the throes of a fear gremlin. And for me, to be honest, my fear, and I don't know if anybody else out there has this fear, but my fear is not being good enough. And that then branches off into being judged and being rejected and being blah, 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 blah. But it's there, it's real. And it doesn't matter how many times I went through therapy. It doesn't matter how many times it's my default. And so, think about your default. What is your default fear gremlin that you go to when you're just being in your life? Claudette, what do you think of that?
Yeah, and it's true that we all have fears. I love what you shared about having a default fear. The one of not being good enough definitely resonates with me. The other one is not being lovable. Like, people are not going to love me or not going to like me, and that's really hard because you're trying to be yourself, be authentic, but you also don't want to push people out of your life. I mean, it's really tough when you're trying to, do the best you can, but then you keep wondering, well, is this really my best? Is that good enough? As you said, you mentioned being good enough, and it just grips you. Like when we talked this week, and I'm so glad we had that conversation, because I felt paralyzed, and that's why we had that conversation. I was paralyzed and afraid of moving forward with a project of mine because, I felt like, what if people are going to criticize me about it? What if I have no one who cares and listens to what I have to say? And, it's that paralyzing moment, right? You feel like you're going to, your chest is tight, your throat is constricted, you have zero energy or very low energy, and you're thinking, and all these negative talk come in. It's like all of a sudden when you're having these moments, it's like, what is it in Harry Potter, those monsters, those those Patronus?
No, that's the spell. I know what you're talking about. I can't think.
The
I
black,
see them.
oh, the soul suckers,
Right.
whatever, right? And they're just suck the life out of you. Well, you know what? That feels like that, and it's so scary, and it's difficult to get out of that feeling of being lifeless and not being measuring up and not being likable, lovable. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
Yeah, yeah, it is. That reminds me. Years and years ago, um, I didn't understand how fear can paralyze a person. I didn't understand that because most of the time, fear, I would feel fear, I would get cranky about fear, and then I would try to move through it or in it or whatever. Um, and I still do. Again, my default fear is strong. But I remember my sister at the time was doing trapeze, 30 feet up in the air and blah blah blah. Anyway, they kept asking me if I would go up and do it, and I said okay, because I used to climb trees. I never had a quote fear of heights, never.
Wow.
And so I used to climb high up in trees and all. Okay, so I said, sure. Okay. Finally, I gave in and I'm going up this ladder. Now, this ladder is about this big and it goes straight up. And to actually go up the ladder, you have to lean out. And it's 30 feet in the air.
Oh my God.
Okay. So I'm getting up. I'm halfway up, literally halfway up, and I freeze. I can't go any further. I can't go backwards. I am frozen. I can remember life just got very small and tight. And the thing that saved me, and then I think the thing that got me through it was I needed someone outside of me to help me go further. My sister at the time was up on the platform. So she actually talked me up the ladder. Now, it felt like it was days. I don't know how long it was, but that was my experience of being on a very skinny, very vertical ladder. And that was the first time I actually felt that what you describe being paralyzed with fear. And so one of the things I learned from that is when I'm in that moment of fear, and I'm not talking about life threatening fear or danger. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about that fear, false evidence appearing real, or fully experiencing another reality, or forget everything and run, you know, or whatever whatever you want to make that mean. It is to find someone outside of yourself to help you do a reality check and help you move through that fear.
Yeah. And I love what you said about, having a react. And, this is exactly what you did for me on Monday when we talked. And you walked me through the process, right? Of talking about this fear and putting, I like to put the analogy of flashlights, right? When I
Mm-hmm.
was little, I was so afraid of ghosts, and I wouldn't sleep facing a window. And even when the curtains were there, I couldn't face a window when I was sleeping for fear of seeing some eyes or a monster coming through the window. And that lasted well into my young adulthood, having a difficult time, sleeping facing a window. And, you have to start thinking and saying, well, this is ridiculous. Like, this is like, there's no one there. Like, really? Like, you're like 2, 3 stories high. Who's going to be there? Yeah. Anyways, so eventually, I had a conversation. Like, we had a conversation. I had a conversation with someone, and we talked it through. And then all of a sudden, I forced myself to keep the curtains open and to look outside and sit in bed facing that window and looking at it. And what I saw was amazing. I saw stars. I saw the moon. I saw beyond my fear some beautiful scenery. And it was like, now I don't have any curtains anywhere because, like, I don't want to block any of my view outside. So, when you face your fears, when you can, objectively look at the fears and ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? Well, I'm not talking about you're going up the ladder, you could fall and kill yourself. So that's pretty. But for me, like, really, like, looking outside a window, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you're going to see outside. Like, when we talked about the fear of not, being good enough or not being lovable. No, part of our conversation, well, what's the worst that could happen? Well, no one's going to be there. And I love what you said. It's a dress rehearsal, right? So when we fear, whatever we're doing this, I think one of the questions to ask ourselves, what's the worst that could happen? Like, from dying, if you're in a trapeze ladder, which I'm not gonna do, I wouldn't dare do that. But the thing is, it's like, ask yourself, what's the worst that could do? It could happen to you.
Yeah, and as you were talking, Claudette, one of the things is I like that. What's the worst that can happen? And I think one of the things that, so let's say, let's take a big general fear that a lot of people have is the fear of public speaking. let's just use that as a thing. So let's say you have to go in group. I don't care how, for some it might be 5, for some it might be 5,000. Whatever size group you have to be in, and you got to talk. Imagine that you're going to be talking in front of the group, and you have note cards and all the notes fall down. All right, and there you are, and you have to talk, and you have no idea what you're going to say. Now, one of the things I've always asked, when I ask people, because I used to help people with public speaking, and I would always ask them, so what's the worst that would happen if you lose your place or you miss a line or whatever? And most of them would say, well, I'd be embarrassed. As far as I know, and I have looked into data, no one, we might feel it, but no one has died from embarrassment. Nobody has died from embarrassment, but yet that's a fear. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want, and please tell me what stupid looks like, because that's something I had to deal with, looking stupid.
Yeah.
Because of my learning disability, I always thought I was, again, triggered by not good enough. I thought, well, there you go. I have dyslexia. What can, I didn't ask for it. This is what can, so I don't read as easily out in the world as other people. So I have to memorize everything. I have to literally memorize everything. And I forget lines. And so what helped me learn how is there is no such thing as looking stupid. You might fall, you might, something will, I've been in many plays and dance recitals where scenery has fallen and lights won't go on and the music cue isn't happening. And so what I've learned is the show must go on. You may address it, you may not, and here's the other thing in public speaking, nobody knows what you're going to talk about.
That is so true.
Right? Nobody's, but fear of public speaking is a real fear. It has paralyzed many people. So the next time you have to do that, and even if you don't want to, ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And what are some tools I can have in my tool belt if it does happen? And I think that's the thing is we don't prepare for it's not the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, always be prepared. I like to call it the X factor. Life has its own agenda to happen. What are some strategies you can have in place when you're dealing with your default fear? When the fear gremlins invade, what are some tools or in your toolbox you can already have so that way you can take care of it? So that's something to look at.
So I love that question, and so I want to share a few things.
Good.
One, have a buddy like Sharona who kicks your butt when you need to. No, I'm serious. I think a lot of times we're so afraid of sharing our fear with someone else. Fear of looking not the image people think you have. And afraid of showing your vulnerability, the human side of you. But the truth is, if you can't ask a friend, whoever that person happens to be, to kick your butt into reality, that's tough. It's really tough because, even though there's a lot of stuff you can do on your own, because it's in your head, you may not believe what you're hearing, especially if it's on the good side. You'll believe, for some reason, we readily believe all the negative stuff that we hear. Why can't we believe the positive stuff we hear about ourselves, right? So that's where the buddy comes in. That's where having someone who's going to say, hey, listen, this here, the negative talk, just throw it in the trash and listen to what I have to say. It's the truth, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things is as we were working with it, I gave the fear gremlin something else to focus on. Right? We went through a whole process. What are you going to do next? I started asking questions because that's what the brain and the mind likes to do, is collect data and information and file it in some way, right? So you have to give it something else to do. Oh, we got a task. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, let's get our pens and papers out. We got to do something, right? So one of the things is when you have a faithful sidekick, be it a friend, be it a family member, be it a professional, somebody who's kicking your butt sometimes, but just to nudge you on the path of where you need to go. Just saying, no, you're not, you're walking off the edge, girlfriend. Come on back. Come back. Walk away from the edge. Come on. Come on. And come over into this open field.
Yeah.
With little unicorns, um, or big unicorns, whatever you want. It's your field. And fine. So give it something else to do. It's not just saying, oh, you're good enough and everything's going to be fine. That's not what we did. We actually created a strategy and a plan for you to, and actually timelines and places on the calendar.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things, is a lot of times, yes, I agree with you. We don't want to share our fear out of looking weak or vulnerable or whatever that is. But it actually, when we actually share what's going on for us, that actually helps the other person who is listening to be supportive to help you, which actually helps them too. It's a win-win for everybody. So find that faithful sidekick, have a strategy, have a plan, give that gremlin something else to do, because the gremlin is not gonna go away.
Yeah, it's not gonna shut up anytime soon. Even with duct tape, it's not gonna shut up. So I love that thing where you're saying, give it a job. Give it a job. Give it a job. Maybe sweep something. Sweep the dust bunnies in your brain somewhere, right? but in all seriousness, I mean, I think one of the things I think that helped me a lot is laughter, humor. Putting some humor into, like when I was afraid of looking outside the window because I was afraid of monsters. I'm on the third story of my bedroom's on the third story. Like, really? What is going to happen on the third story? Like, Spider-Man's gonna come down and peek in my whatever, Before drones didn't even exist. Maybe now we have drones, but even now I'm not gonna go there. But the reality is, put some humor in there. Look at the other side, twist it in a way that there's some ridiculous aspect to it, and think like, well, duh, no, that's not gonna happen. And for other places in your life where, if you're a stepmom and you're afraid that, you're afraid that no one's gonna like you, or your stepkids are gonna hate you, and you feel paralyzed wanting to connect with them. Well, the thing is like, kind of find some humor in there, and even though it may be very difficult, ask yourself, like, really, is this like, I know I'm not that bad. I'm not that awful. Look at some of the successes I've had. And that's one of the things we talked about also, past successes. I'm not a total failure. I'm not a total not good enough. I've done some really good stuff in the past. And, I wrote them down and was like, oh, well, you know what? And it wasn't by chance either. I worked my butt off to, create the kind of relationships I have with my stepkids, my husband, and the life I have. So I think, you need to shift that reality in your head. And so to look at what you've actually really honestly succeeded at doing, no matter how big or small it is.
Yeah, I agree. And that is especially true for midlife women. Again, we've been on this planet for a certain amount of time. We can't. Here's the thing: we can't be complete failures, and we can't be completely not good enough because we're here. We gotten to this point. Sure, it might not have turned out the way we thought, but we're here. And I think one of the things that so to look at what one of the things is not only your past successes, but what are some of the things that you are innately really groovy with. We forget that sometimes. I think it goes back to what you were talking about, Claudette, about why is it that we can keep all that evidence of how bad we are, but yet if we talk to our if we say, oh well, I am good enough, it doesn't feel real. And I think a lot of it has to do with neural pathways and how we keep thinking in the same. I think someone once said we think the same thoughts like thousands of times a day. There's a loop we go through. And so if you think about that, has made these deep grooves in our brain and in our mind. So one of the things that we can start looking for is collecting evidence of what I do well. And it might be something we have learned or something that was innately we were able to do even as a young person, that we didn't go to school for, that no one showed us how to do. We just somehow did it.
Like for you, Sharona, your microwave, your instant microwave meals, right?
Roz, that goes back to my scientific experimenting with mud pies when I was 7 years old. It's that taking things that don't seem to go together and somehow now they would call it a mashable or mashup. I was doing that right. The other thing was that I innately did, and I don't know where I learned this, but and I'm not funny all the time, but I have a sense of humor. I do. I don't know where it comes from. I even tried to go to stand-up comedy school, and they didn't even get what I was doing there. Like, what? And I'm not, great. I'm not going to make money. It's just who I am. It's just what leaks out. I can't help it. It's just who I am. And then that comes innately to me. I was dancing before I was walking. I think swoon. So things that I have to remember, and I'm thinking, well, that's not good. It doesn't matter. It's what I do well. And that it transforms. And the other thing that actually was something I started doing was I listened to other people. People would, when I was younger, and even to this day, people would come up to me and just talking about their life. I don't know why, but they were just tired and they, talk. I was like, what is it? The therapist is in or something. So that translated into what I do now, right? So being a teacher, I was innately a teacher. So those are things that we all have something we do innately well. Write those down. Those are your strengths. And there are things that no matter how hard you try, you cannot make it work. Those are your limitations. So I know for my limitation is numbers. I do not do numbers well. Yes, I can count and I can count on my fingers, but don't ask me multiple. No, I need a calculator. I admit it. Okay. So you need both of those to work as a human being. You have to understand you have limitations and you have strength. And the fear, a lot of times, the fear gremlins are going to keep hooking itself into the limitations. It's not going to look at the strengths. So bring in your strengths. So yeah, I will understand numbers, but I can make a dance about a number.
Yeah, it's true. You need to know what you have, your qualities. And it may not be the same qualities as your spouse or your family member, and that embrace the differences you have. Like you, Sharona, you're innately funny. You make me laugh a lot. And, you know, that's why I think we work well together. We're different, but in our differences, we complete each other as co-hosts and co-workers. And so look for strengths in other people you may not have, that are wanting or looking to have, and see that as a way of building yourself, especially when you're feeling like that gremlin coming in and you're feeling fearful. It's a paralyzing, you know, look for that mentor or that image of that person that you aspire to and look up to, and you know, ask yourself, what would such and such do in this situation? And I think that'll help you to walk through at least some of the issues, at least short term. And I do agree that I think for long term, you need someone to help you, you know, and that's what Sharona and I do. We help women in different areas. Works with midlife women, and I work with stepmoms in dealing with some of the issues that we face. And a lot of times, you know, it goes around different kinds of fear. Fear of connecting with another person. Fear of pressing yourself when you're angry or sad or frustrated. A fear of not being lovable or not being enough. And so these fear, you know, will erode at who you are as an individual, and you're going to feel there all the time. So, you know, if you're someone who's looking for that kind of support, Sharona loves midlife women, and I love to talk with us. Sharona, share with us a little bit how you could help midlife women deal with their fears.
Thanks, Claudette. So, a couple things. So I'm a midlife women dancing with change specialist, and you can find me at my website, midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. You can also find me on social media at midlife hashtag midlife women dancing with change. And so if you're, you know, and life, a lot of times we think because we have been on this planet for a certain amount, our life is going to be really smooth, but we hit a certain point and all of a sudden there's emotional impact, career might be changing or disappearing, relationships might be changing, and that fear of I'm never going to get through this, I'm going to be judged as not being a failure, no one's going to like me, I'm never going to make it, you know, all those fears. So if you're having those fears and you've tried everything and you just need a faithful psychic to bring you, you know, find the path in the woods. That way we can, you know, take the fear them and transform them. Give me, you know, I'd be happy to talk with you. I would, you know, midlife women dancing with change, or on my social media pages, and let's see, find a way so that we reform the fear gremlins, so that way you can keep moving forward life's journey. How about you? You know, and I think part of it too for me is so that you're not just surviving in midlife, but you're thriving wholeheartedly in. Claudette, how can a stepmom find you and ask for your support with friends?
So thanks, Sharona. So if you're a stepmom and you're dealing with change or fear and afraid of change and afraid of, getting close with your stepkids, your husband isn't where it should be or where you would like it to be, I'd love to help you. I've been a stepmom for 26 years. I've with a lot of stepmoms in these different capacities. I've gone through all these different changes myself. If you're a stepmom and looking for help and support in dealing with step family issues, you can meet me at stepmomcoach.com. Another way of reaching me is using hashtag stepmomcoach or stepmomwisdom, hashtag stepmomwisdom. I'm on social media all over the place. Coming soon in September, I'm going to have a 8-week program called 7 Pillars in Creating a Strong and Healthy Step Families. So if that is something that interests you, send me an email and I'll give you details. We're also going to have a few free webinars that are going to come up soon regarding. So, again, if you're looking for support in your need, just email me at Claudette@stepmomcoach.com or hashtag stepmomcoach and you'll find me on social media. So Sharona, what a great episode to talk about, our fears and our gremlins. And, we even shared about ourselves, how we've gone through our own fears and issues. And we shared some great strategies in how to move past and beyond our fears and how to deal with them. So any last words of wisdom you want to share with our listeners today?
Thanks, Claudette. And I think one of the things I would like to say is we did share a lot of information in this episode. And so what I'm going to suggest is re-listen, get a paper and pen, write it down. Sometimes you'll hear things differently when you re-listen to it. And also, put your comments or ideas or some of your strategies to deal with fear gremlins down below, and share with at our channel. And here's the thing: yes, fear gremlins are always there, but there are ways to reform them so that way you're not paralyzed paralyzed in your life, stuck in your life, be it in your midlife or as a stepmom. So with that in mind, I want to thank everyone today and have a rest of a groovy day. Thank you, Claudette, for another brilliant and inspiring episode.
Thank you, Sharona. Bye, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you
next week. That's right. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Groove on, have fun, and thrive.